If you didn't know it, you probably would have thought Brian's out here trying to find people who are not naturally salespeople, but also are great salespeople. And I didn't intend to do that. Not at all. I asked on LinkedIn, who is the best enterprise salesperson you know? The best B2B salesperson you know? And what's turning out to be quite kind of surprising is that they're not what you would classically think is that gregarious, life of the party salesperson. Now, is it surprising to me? It's surprising to me in the sense that people are recommending people who don't come across that way. And what always frustrated me when I was in sales and then when I got into sales training and consulting was this perception of what people think a salesperson should be. As a customer, we all want the advocate. We want the person helping us, the person who matches our personality, our pace, our style of discovery, learning, evaluating things. Somebody's not pushing us, somebody who knows about both the product, the market, is inquisitive about us. Is that unusual to ask for those things? I guess that's what I'm looking for. You know, when a salesperson doesn't understand something or can't get it done, but when that person does whatever it takes to get it done, asks, hey, how do we do? Are you concerned about anything? Did we miss something? Is there something you want to talk more about? I love that, don't you? Do I want to be entertained? I want somebody who's enjoyable to talk with. I don't want somebody who's shaking and out of nervousness or telling me stories 100 miles an hour and I can't get them to shut up. Well, and how's it any different than we sell? And the only exception to this, and I kind of warn reps about this, is during the interview process. Early in my career, I used to get the feedback from headhunters saying that guy doesn't come across as a sales rep. And it was because I was trying to be the way I sell to my customers, who tended to be more on the engineering side, more quiet, slower paced. But even executives, they don't want, the glad-handing rep. They want somebody who really understands their business, understand what they're up against, that someone they can count on. But in the interview process, sales managers want that high energy, killer mentality, and that's okay. Just be aware of it. And in this interview, it's another classic case where the guy grew up in a family of finance people, stumbled into sales like we all tend to do, and then starts to see that control that they can have over their career, the control they can have over their income. The meritocracy that's based off of performance, where instead of politics, instead of perception, instead of pieces of paper on the wall, the things that, we hear about, but who wants to play that game? That game it's not fun. The performance game of sales, that's what's fun. And in my courses, I really don't teach style. Because style and personality, it's uniquely yours, and you should leverage it. You can become better at certain parts. If you're not talkative, you could become great at questioning, which gets the other person talking. If you talk a little too much, you might want to take a little breath, take a little pause, build in a little checkpoint now and then. Maybe if you talk faster than your audience, and I knew this like when I did startups, when you cover a third of the country, you're going from Dallas one day to Atlanta to Manhattan to Columbus, Ohio to Chicago, all within a month. Very different personalities, different styles, and you have to kind of become a chameleon, and that's okay. But what we tend to think of is a stereotypical salesperson, and we try and live up to that. We put on our sales voice that sounds like a sales voice, and I think we have to kind of find the style that fits us, that's authentic to our personality, and effective with our clients. Take the pace, the tonality, the right amount of mix of rapport building, questioning, pushing back, debating a little. It's all good in the right proportions. The challenge is we tend to think of it as one thing. One book will come out and say the other's all wrong. Then the next book will come out and say that one's all wrong. What we have to do is find out what is right for us. But on the other side of style is strategy. Now, strategy doesn't matter about style so much. Strategy is really cause and effect. If I do this, what is most likely going to happen? The problem is people don't ask that second question. They go, okay, how do I do these three things? Which one's best? Okay, well, let's think about what are the consequences of taking that and seeing which one, 2 or 3 moves ahead is going to help us the most. You got to play chess. This is not a game of checkers. The simple sale, the single transaction is checkers. Chess is the B2B sale. Many different decision makers, large dollar amount, several meetings, small to large time gaps in between those conversations. Deal is most likely to die, delay, or be minimized. So we have to come up with a strategy to prevent that. Not sit around spending all your time trying to repair it. Repair it is really hard. Preventing, not so hard. It just takes, the hard part is doing it. And the key part of all of sales is getting yourself ready. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Get the student ready. Then the teacher will appear. Don't spend 5 or 10 years getting ready. Get ready today and the teacher will appear. Don't waste your career trying to get ready. Sitting in that Dunning-Kruger effect, the B player trap, thinking, oh, I'm fine. I did great at this company. It must be my territory. It must be the product. But it doesn't matter. All that matters is, did you sell anything? Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end. Make sure you're checking out the courses at b2brevenue.com. I know a lot of the 15-minute conversations to check out if the course is right for you are booked. The demand has been overwhelming. That's why I generated a frequently asked questions video on everywhere. On YouTube, it's in the show notes. It's on my LinkedIn profile. It's on the website, b2brevenue.com. If it doesn't answer a particular question of yours, feel free to email or connect with me or send me an in-message on LinkedIn with the question, not just a time to talk. Because what happens is a lot of people can't boil it down into a question. If you just want to chat, then you'll have to get on that 15-minute space when it becomes available. Here we go. I'll sum it up at the end. Hey, Tony, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So a little bit of a background on myself. So when I was in college, I had majored in business management economics and had been interested in sort of the business world for a very long time. I grew up in a household where my mom was a tax advisor, my dad was a financial advisor, and so money and business had always been big for me. And then moving into college, I kind of thought that I want to go into some sort of business field, whether it's marketing or business development or something. Sales was the absolute bottom. I had never wanted to go in sales. And the reason it ended up happening, quite honestly, back when I first started about 6 years ago, was that it was the last job offer I got. And it was either this or move back home in with my parents. And so I ended up taking it thinking that, okay, you know what, I'll do sales for 6 months, a year, and then I'll move on to something else. Well, fast forward to where I'm at now, I love it. And I absolutely think that I made the best choice that I could have. And I think that it's something that I could see myself doing for the rest of my life. This is what I love doing. I love talking to people. I love, selling something that I truly believe is necessary and can actually improve the way that businesses and people overall can work together. And so that's sort of how I came into sales and how I've evolved in sales. I've been very, very fortunate to join a company that has executed at the top level, time and time again, has brought in some of the best leaders. And I've learned from some of the best people. I've had some amazing managers to look up to and to learn from. And so it's been quite the journey. It's from where I first started at a company that, quite honestly, I couldn't pronounce the name. I didn't really know what they did, and to the point now where we're a large public company competing with some of the largest names out there.
Yeah. And what was that first year like?
The first year was so it was interesting. I started as a BDR, so I started out as an entry level BDR, and it was a combination of getting used to what it's like to sell a very, very technical product. So for your viewers that may not be familiar, Twilio is where I work, and we sell an API effectively. It's a communication platform that allows for you to embed voice, SMS, video chat into software using an API. And so you think about, for example, ZocDoc in the age of COVID and being able to spin up a telehealth appointment on the fly, or you think about calling into any sort of call center or to your bank or your insurance company and having all that context be able to be in front of the screen of an agent. So we provide that back-end technology. So that first year was all about learning what it's like to sell a very technical product and what it's like to speak to developers, to sell to developers, and generate a story that can resonate with a developer, with an architect, and with an executive, and how to do that for all these different products. And as we've evolved and as we've added more products, that story has certainly gotten better. But that first year was all about learning, listening to folks that were more experienced than I was, and just trying to begin to understand what kind of salesperson I was going to be.
Because I got to believe, both parents being financial people, kind of cut and dry, even keeled, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I was. I was raised in and not only was both my parents in the finance space, but they're also immigrants, and they came to America with almost nothing, and so I was raised to kind of in a I would say a very unique environment in the sense that everything kind of was bare bones, and it was always like, okay, you make some money, put it away, or everything was kind of taught right to the book, right to the T. And so, I would agree with you there.
Because that kind of mindset is almost the opposite of sales.
Right.
Where you're trying to create something from nothing.
Yeah.
As opposed to managing what exists.
Yeah. So it was definitely a mind shift in thinking of how to sell, and how to sell successfully and to companies of all sizes, of all industries, and especially to those in industries that don't really think about innovation or digital communications, and trying to have them, really rethink the way that they are going to survive for the next 20 years.
And, it's certainly great getting into a hot company on the growth curve versus a small or mature company on the down curve.
Don't get me wrong. I'm very, very fortunate to have gotten into a very good company, a very hot company. I don't think we knew that 5 years ago, 6 years ago. But yeah, absolutely. Having, the right product, the right people, and the potential is absolutely what has helped me, and I think the company also excel.
And how about like the interpersonal skills? Was that something you had already, or was it something that was outside your comfort zone?
I think I had to work on it. I think I certainly had to work on it. I was a personable kind of individual. Like, I like talking to people. But that's what you do in sales, 24/7. Right. And that's you have to get much better at that and get much more comfortable at that. And so I also had to get more comfortable with it, knowing that I have to walk into a room where folks that have 30 years experience, and they are much more, they are much more knowledgeable in this space. And I have to kind of get to par where they're at and have them trust me, establish this relationship. And so it was a work in progress, and absolutely still is a work in progress. Yeah. I think I started to hit my stride specifically within the enterprise, I would say towards the end of 2019, like in terms of how to talk to these folks and, begin to build that relationship. And then, the whole world changed, and we had to kind of figure out how to do this all over again over Zoom.
Right. And how did you pick up that technology fast enough? Because it's full of acronyms. Everyone's got strong feelings about it. There's lots of keywords.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's a lot of listening. It's just going. So, I remember my first year, and back then the office was still small enough to the point where you could walk over to the other side of the office where all the product folks sat and your product managers, and you could just pull them into a room for a half hour, and you say, hey, tell me about this product, and that's it. Just sit back and listen. Let them diagram, let them do all these things, let them throw out all these keywords. And most of it's going to sound like a different language. Yeah. But as you kind of look at it and you write things down and you look over your notes and you record these sessions, and you go back, you go back into it, it becomes something that is more natural to you. I can't say that I'm at the same level as a developer. I cannot code. But I think that I can speak to a developer and have them understand, and we can kind of talk the same language now. So yeah, it is difficult, especially when you're selling, a platform. I'm selling the art of the possible. I'm not selling something in a box and it can only do a specific set of things. So it's certainly a different type of conversation to be had.
That's it, because a lot of people get intimidated if they don't have a technical background or experience.
Yeah.
And, because I made a huge shift into like security, and it was a real niche of security.
Yeah.
There was nothing on YouTube, very little on the internet at the time.
Sure.
So did exactly what you did, recorded the CEO giving the presentation.
Yep.
I must have listened to that thing 100 times.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are experts in this space, right? And you just have to listen to them. You have to defer a lot of your training and your knowledge to them. And it does take a lot of practice. It's just repetitions and repetition, and eventually you'll get better at it, but you're never going to be the best. Like I think that's what continues to drive me and motivate me, is that I'm never going to be the best. I can always continue to get better.
And when did you feel at home in sales? When did you just say, like, this is not just a job, this is something I really like to do?
Probably like 2, maybe 3 years into the job, after I had the ability to kind of talk to businesses and sell to businesses, from the very small 2-person startup up to some of the largest companies in the world, and have different types of conversations and pitch different solutions. And I really felt like coming into my own, like I really like this and I really enjoy doing this. So it took some time for sure. And it's like I continue to go back to this. It will always be a work in progress. I will always continue to hone my craft, and I will assume that as I continue to do that, I will like sales more and more.
And what's the hardest part of selling something like where you become part of their product essentially?
Yeah. The hardest part, quite honestly, is the question that I get most often is, can you do this? And the answer 99% of the time is yes, but you have to build it. And so generally when you're selling a something out of the box software, the answer is cut and dry. Yes, the software can do this. No, it can't do that. Here, I can show you a demo of how to do what you just asked for. For me, selling a platform, I have no demo to show you. I can show you what other people have built, right, and I can show you what's been out there, but you're going to have to build this from the ground up, and you can do whatever you want. That's the beauty of software, and that's the beauty of developers, and of an API. Whatever you ask for, more likely than not, it can be built.
Yeah, yeah, it's very similar to some stuff I've done. And so they're doing it somehow today, right?
What do you mean?
When you're selling, they're accomplishing the objective that they could with you. Is it better to go with you, or are you dealing with green fields where they're not doing it today?
Both. So the ultimate value prop that that Twilio has, but I think this can also extend to any sort of platform or API that you'd sell, is the whole concept of owning your roadmap. A lot of companies who use other vendors for a solution that we sell, or companies who don't have a solution are trying to get into this space or trying to reimagine it, they are generally going to be hamstrung by whatever that vendor has built for them or whatever is available in the box. And if they want to change something for their end user, or if their customer has come to them and has requested a certain feature, they then have to go back to their vendor and say, hey, can you do this? The fundamental shift and the fundamental difference here is there's no vendor to go back to. It's you, as the company who's serving your customer, can decide what you want to do, and you have to build it. So the whole concept of owning your roadmap and being able to have a closer connection to your customer is a bit of a different mentality. It's not what used to be 10, even 5 years ago. The power of the developer has exponentially increased, and it's not stopping.
Yeah. And how do you run into they like it technically? You go through this proof of concept, they ask for a proposal, and then it dies where they don't have
all the time. What I often say, and this is especially true in enterprise, and this is probably going to be true for the majority of your folks that are in enterprise sales, is the value prop of what you sell could be quite easy to get to. Like you could see the value of the solution, but the hardest part of the job is, number one, getting the actual resources to build it, and number two is all the compliance and all the legal and the security and the data protection and all of that. When we're operating in such a new space and such a new field, having your customers, legal folks, security folks, being able to understand what it is that we're trying to do here, that is the much larger hurdle to get over. But once we do that, then we're kind of off to the races.
So you have a lot of, what I call naysayers or legacy people who don't
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, people who have made their careers on some of these legacy technologies, people who, they're going to retire in 5 years. And why would they drastically shift something now when they've been so successful for the last 30 years? It happens all the time, especially in, financial services and healthcare and some of the more legacy industries, as I'll say.
And how do you navigate that or predict whether that's going to be a waste of time or not, or slow it down to the point where it's less valuable to you compared to the other options you could spend your time on?
Yeah, it's hard to predict for sure. I mean, before I go into any meeting, I'll obviously do my research on who it is that I'm talking to. I'll look at their LinkedIn's. I'll look at maybe articles they've published or blog posts they've published, and try to get a sense of what the common themes are and what they want to hear or what's going to resonate with them. When you see someone who has been in has made their career, like I said, on a legacy technology, something that you're trying to unseat, it's going to be difficult, and it's hard to predict how that meeting is going to go. But at that point, I kind of have to rely on the skills that I have, gained in the last, ever since I started, and trying to help people see the value in what it is that I'm selling, and start to create that mind shift. And even if I'm meeting with 5 people and 4 say absolutely not, that one person that says yes, well, I have just started a potential relationship with a champion, and I'm going to continue to coach that champion to start flipping those other 4. That's all it really takes. Just to start just a very, very little bit, one person to believe in you, and then from there you can kind of begin to snowball into a larger relationship.
And I got to believe it's the type of sale where it's not really the money, it's the change that they have to go through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the money, honestly, it's what we're proposing here can save these companies a lot of money, a lot of money. I mean, you're shifting to a very, a cloud-based technology that costs a lot less. You don't have to maintain servers. You don't have to maintain specialized staff that can only do one specific thing. A lot of cost savings, but there's also a lot of change. The change is the hardest part to get over. And it is my prediction that eventually everyone in the Fortune 2000 or in the Fortune 500 Global 2000 will get there. It's a matter of time, not a matter of if.
Yeah, because it's much more like when the cloud first started.
Yeah.
People were scared to death to even put their email server up on the cloud.
Yep, exactly. And now you see more and more of that shifting, and you're seeing now the effects of customers choosing to go to companies where their experiences is something that they enjoy. It's no longer about the product that you offer, but also about the experience that you offer, and how easy it is for me as an end customer to deal with this company that I'm buying from. And that's what I'm trying to sell, is this ultimate experience that you're then going to create for your customer.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've been exposed to a lot of great salespeople and a lot of okay salespeople. What do you see as kind of the distinctions?
I think number one, it's the tenacity. It's the continued drive to become better and continued drive to learn and succeed. Number two, it's the people who have a process and the people who know exactly what it takes to succeed. Some of that may be, some of them may be very data driven, and they know exactly, how they get their quota. They know exactly how to build their pipeline, and they have all these different formulas and spreadsheets, and they know how to get there. Others, it may be who are you going to talk to from marketing or from product, and be able to understand how are you going to get to your quota. So I think it's the tenacity, and the motivation, as well as the process. And the people that I've seen, and this is, I think, very true of pretty much every leader at Twilio that I've had the opportunity to work with, they embody those characteristics. And that's what I'm trying to, live up to and try to get to one day.
And what have you learned most? Because I'm sure you've run into a lot of places where it makes economic sense, technical sense, but it's not going to happen in your lifetime. Right?
Yeah.
Or at least in your window of quota.
So you're talking specifically when trying to sell to a customer, or some roadblocks. Yeah. The roadblocks really come down to I guess I'll call it the paperwork change, right? So like I alluded to earlier, the shift to something that Twilio sells is rather simple, right? If you get a developer, even a mid-tier developer, they can build something real quick. But it's all about how are you going to create a mind shift change within that organization to start thinking differently, to start seeing the value in what that developer is going to build and how they're ultimately going to get closer to the customer. You'd be surprised how many times I ask one of my customers, what do their customers care about? And they say, I don't really know. They don't talk to their customers on a day-to-day basis. Once that mind shift happens and they start to actually think about what they're building and how it benefits their end customer, patient, consumer, whatever it may be, then it becomes a much quicker time to value and a much quicker sale, really.
So when do you, or do you get involved with the line of business people? You got the technical people who are building the app on top of your product.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
But the line of business people probably have the power,
Mm-hmm.
politically at least, and maybe even
Mm-hmm.
economically,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to create
Yeah.
urgency to have the company change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the technical piece is just one of many factors that once I get the technical win, that's great. But I'm only 20% of the way there. Yeah.
Everybody thinks
So
they're 80% there.
no, not at all. And what I've learned is, especially in the last couple of years, is the technical win might oftentimes be the easiest win to get, and that's great. But your work has just started. So getting the business people engaged is equally, if not more important, and getting executive alignment is equally, if not more important, right? So I've begun to have this process that I've implemented where I compartmentalize into the different wins that I need to get, and all of those are going at the same time in parallel. And if I get one first, great, we'll keep it there. Let's get everything else to the point where we can get a contract signed. A contract's not going to be signed, and I'm not actually going to get a closed one deal without having every single person bought in and every single person knowing what exactly it is that we're doing here. And while that process may be lengthy and while that process may be difficult, it's ultimately going to help you not just get that first deal, but get that second and fifth and 10th deal. And that's ultimately how you're going to get those $1 million, $10 million deals.
Yeah. And how do you become good at that business sale? Because it's completely different than the technical sale.
Yeah. I think it's so much like on the technical sale, spending time with your product managers, understanding the product that you're selling. You do the same thing with your lawyers. You do the same thing with your security people. You do the same thing with your own executives. You want to understand how they think, what they care about, and how they've architected everything. And then you relay that to your customer. You then say, okay, I know how we view our legal documents, our terms and conditions, our MSA. Here are the main sticking points, because I've been through this so many times. I know exactly what you are going to see here, and let me explain to you what our point of view is, so that I can kind of streamline this process and not take up resources from my legal team. Same thing happens with security. Same thing happens with the executives. So spending time with every single component of your own organization, your own supporting team, to understand what they think is success, and then kind of relaying that to your customer and finding every single stakeholder that you can align to them, right? So you as an account executive, you're the quarterback of that opportunity and the account, and your job is done, or you got your first win when you've created that route and you've understood how to best get down the field, and you've understood everything that has to align, right? So there's a lot of components to it, and I think it's just you taking the time to learn and listen, and ultimately repetitions, and just kind of get better at it over time.
And have there been any major epiphanies when you got into enterprise, on the enterprise side, as far as how to use your time, how to assure a win versus no decision?
Yeah. Yes. The whole enterprise deal cycle. I think that has been and continues to be one of the biggest surprises to me, coming from selling an SMB.
Yeah.
An SMB, you're talking to the CEO of a 100-person company, and you're talking to the guy or girl who makes the decisions. Like you're right there at the top. Here, in a company that's 50,000 people big, there are 17 business units, all siloed, no one talking to one another, all using different technologies. And it's your job to understand what their procurement process is, how they get through legal cycles, legal negotiations, what they care about from a privacy standpoint, and you start that from the very first conversation. Yeah. And even before you get a technical win, you have to understand, how am I going to get the legal win? Because if I'm not getting the legal win, I'm wasting my time here. Yeah. If I'm not going to get eyes from their lawyers or from their security folks to assess our platform, make sure it clears their procurement policies, I'm wasting my time here. And so the biggest thing I've learned is start the process early and often, and continue to ask and revalidate and ask and revalidate every single chance you get.
Yeah. And how long did it take to learn that? Was that something you learned from a loss? Was that somebody told you? It's like, look, make sure you do this. And you're like,
no, I think I didn't learn it from a lot. I learned it from just the fact that I realized I wasn't going to be able to get any wins if I didn't do that.
They wait until it's stuck in legal, or some security guy raises his hands and does it adhere to this standard or that standard, or.
Yeah. I was, before joining the enterprise, before jumping into an enterprise sales role, I had always heard about this. I'd always heard, the MSA discussion is very, very difficult. The BA discussion, whatever it might be, is very difficult. And I always thought, okay, yeah, sure. But I've done this many times. I've gotten many close won deals here. It can't be that different, right? No, it's very different. And you begin to realize that early, because, I think my very first experience of an enterprise deal was with a prominent hospital in the Northeast, and we had gotten the technical win within 2 weeks. It was very awesome. Got within 2 weeks, and then the legal folks came in and said, "Listen, if you can't sign this document, we're not moving forward. I don't care how great of a solution you have. We're not moving forward without this document." And that's when it clicked to me, is like, okay, they care about this so much more, and the process here is so much more well defined. That you just have to get that down if you ever want to get a win. And so, you're going to have a couple of swings and misses when you start out, not just in enterprise, but also in a new company. It's what you do with those. It's how you take those and what you learn from them and how you iterate on your own process as what's going to define how successful you're going to be. Cool. That's what I found.
Yeah, great. Hey, Tony, appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to talk. Happy to talk and learn. Like I said, sales is a never-ending learning process, and I would always love to swap notes with people, talk to people, and continue to hone my own processes, and hopefully share some good tidbits of my own to others.
Yes, even a finance guy can become great at sales. We all can. You got to first understand the full game of what you're playing. You got to understand it from both sides. How do people buy? How do companies buy? How do they do it both politically, economically? Because we don't really think about it. I had a great interview with a CEO yesterday, and the stuff I was talking about clearly was over the head, meaning he had never heard it before. Now, he was also a former salesperson. And so many of us are in the trance of the simple sale, the hounding, the pushing, the big smile, the pressure, action. But is it with the right person? Is it in the right way? He really didn't understand how the internals of a company went until I started putting it on him. I asked him the questions that definitely would happen if his company was buying. And he was like, you're right. If you don't do these things, it just delays. And what we end up thinking is, we didn't bring enough value. We didn't bring enough urgency. We didn't do enough of this or that. Part of that's true. It is. Part of it's true. But when you come up with the exact process, you guide the people through it, you prevent the traps that you know are going to happen. Don't go over my heads. Just work with me. Send me a proposal. I'll get it done by the end of the month. That's all talking to a person who doesn't know what they're doing, hasn't done it. I've worked at 12 companies in my life. We never went to decision-making school. We never went to how to spend the company's money school. And, we got corporate credit cards at times. I made it up to vice president. You got a corporate credit card. I don't know what the limit of it was, but I know I certainly couldn't buy enterprise software on it. I couldn't buy hardware on it. I couldn't do, I probably could have went to a trade show and got a booth, but I probably would have got my hand slapped. So imagine trying to spend $50,000 or $100,000. And I pretty much know what each boss would say. It's like, that's not your job. Give it to the people over there. Okay, well, now the deal's stuck. Am I going to tell the rep? Nobody likes to deliver bad news. That's why they're not calling you back. That's why they're ghosting you. They know what you want. They have no need for anything from you. So they ghost you. This is all preventable. And, people ask, how did you learn this? Well, part of it, I learned from other people. Books, not so good. There's some that are helpful, but you don't learn how to swim by reading a book. You have to, a lot of it was trial and error, and I hated wasting time. And I got my start in sales when there, maybe 15 opportunities, probably less a year. So if you lost one, it cost you, a car. The value of a car, and that tuition, would be like, 3 courses in college? And if you didn't memorize that, and of course I didn't, I was foolish and young and ambitious and assumed it had nothing to do with me. But very quickly I did, because I was hyper competitive. I didn't want that person who was 15, 20 years older than me looking down at me saying, oh, someday you'll get it, buddy. No, I'm going to kick your butt. So it took me a year and a half, 2 years, and I figured it out. And I kicked his butt. And those lessons, we tend to forget them because we don't want to pay attention to them. We don't want to do the little hard things in the moment that we end up paying for 10 times as much 2 weeks later when they won't take our call, when they push us off, when they won't reply. But wait a second, you seem so interested. Or they want you to go steady with them. They don't want you talking with anybody else. Or they want to buy as little as possible at the beginning. Or they want an extended this or extra that, but they won't help you in any way. And you ask them how you make it. They don't know. I put these videos out on LinkedIn, and I get it all the time by these, you got to bring more value. You got to talk to the decision maker. What decision? The decision to buy. Well, what do you mean? Buy economically? Buy technically? Buy administratively? What are you talking about? Mr. Big Cheese will help you. No. I've been in deals where you're talking with the CEO, and it gets stalled, delayed, or marginalized after that conversation. Why is that? Because you didn't sell the whole deal. And you can decide. A lot of people, I'll take the land and expand strategy. Yeah, you know what that means? That means you work insanely hard to maybe make your number this year. They take half your territory away next year, and you filled up someone else's pipeline for them. You can do that. And the company might like that. The investors like that. They want to get rid of us salespeople. And I heard that my whole career. We're going to get rid of salespeople. You know what? There's probably 30 times as many B2B salespeople today than there was when I started. Back when Christopher Columbus landed. No, it wasn't that long ago. And there's, you know what? In 10 years, there's going to be more B2B salespeople. If you listen to analysts, don't know anything. If they knew something, they wouldn't be analysts. They would be salespeople. They'd be entrepreneurs. They wouldn't be analyzing. They'd be creating. There's going to be more sales jobs. The difference is the number of A players has not increased 30 times. It may be doubled, maybe tripled. And I put out a post that A players will always be at 0% unemployment. Now, always. Why? Because A players know that every job is temporary. Their reputation precedes them. Every VP I interview At the very end of the interview, they asked me one question. Do you know any great salespeople? If you know anybody looking who's fantastic, let me know. Or I asked them, I go, if I know you don't have an opening, but if you happen to bump into an A player, somebody who you know could crush it. And when I say A player, I don't mean making quota. I don't mean the guy who shows up on time. I don't mean the guy who does his work. I mean like the top 5%. And the scary thing is they're making probably 50% of all the commission in the company. You don't want to believe it. I know. Challenge me on it. Argue with me. Look around. Look at your company. Like when the top 5% of the reps are making $500,000, $1 million a year, and the bottom 20 are making about 150, and the middle's making maybe 200. Which one do you want to be? They didn't work harder than you. They typically just worked smarter. And this is what people don't understand about sales. Hard work falls apart at about 16 hours a day because you have to sleep, you have to eat. But working smarter does not expire. If you spent, I put a challenge out to you a couple of weeks ago about spend 5 minutes a day asking yourself, how could you have been smarter with your time today? Why your time? Because your time you have control over. To a great majority. You can block out your time. Almost every manager will let you skip out if you have a real deal that was pre-scheduled. They will. Believe me, I've gotten out of more kickoffs, more QBRs, more, enablement bullshit by just having something on my calendar. Now, is it bullshit? Well, relative to selling, it is. I'm sorry. And I've been the main speaker at some of those things. It's not that it's not valuable. Everything's valuable, but to what extent? Think about every day. At the end of the day, 5 minutes, or if you can't do 5, do 1 minute. What could I have done smarter today? How could I have used my time more effectively? What was the best use of my time? What was the worst use of my time? How could I prevent that in the future? Managing your time, your calendar, is critical. Because look at where we are in the year. Is it going by slow? I doubt the answer to that is yes. Most likely it's going by really, really fast. And this is the slowest part of the year. Come Q4, it goes by like a rocket ship. You blink and it's over. And in sales, you don't pay for your crimes immediately. You pay probably 90 to 120 days later. Your pipeline suffers not today, but next quarter because you didn't do the right things. The deal becomes smaller, not because of the company. It's because you didn't prevent it from shrinking. It doesn't become longer. The natural progression is for every deal to go longer. How do you prevent that? It's possible. How do you repair it? Really hard. Everyone calls me up with repair questions. And the problem is repairing, there's no good answer. There's a bunch of things you could do. Prevention, great answers. I've got great answers for prevention. And if you do them, the problem is they seem trivial. They seem awkward at the time. They seem bold even at the time. But it's like putting $1 in and getting 100 back. Repair is like putting 100 in and getting $1 back. You decide which one you want to be. We just want to be nice to our customers, and we should, but we also should have a backbone. We should stand our ground. We should get the things that we need to, and it's really for them as well, because they are way overconfident. They think it's so easy to get things done at a company. Everything is easy until you try it. So make this your year. Because how do you learn? You can either learn from your mistakes, someone else's, or through other people. And the courses give you all three, where I outline exactly how to do it based off of a lot of experience And you get to see it from pretty much every industry, every country, pretty much every persona in B2B. So it has to be business to business, reasonably large dollar amount to make it worthwhile for you. Nobody's in it because they got a tremendous amount of inbound. Nobody's in it because they're just an account manager. People are in it because it's hard. People are in it because they want to become better. People are in it to win. So when you hear these other people and you go through their situations and you learn from them through me and through each other, so you get to talk it through. You get to hear how other people are doing it. What's better than that? We'll see you next time. Hey, are you sharing the podcast? Are you telling a friend? Are you checking out the others? Sales questions, brutally honest answers. B2B, revenue leadership. The Sales Leadership Show is cooking right now. Check it out. And if you're looking for a job, there's some great sales leaders in there looking for some great people. Thanks for listening. Trying to really sell complex stuff, new stuff. And you get to hear that pattern over and over again. And then when you get a breakthrough and you get the smile on their face and they get their first deal or their first meeting with an executive they only dreamed of getting before, and they stop wasting their time going from one meeting a week to 10 or 20 and just have it in a system, boom, 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 becomes unconsciously competent at it after a while. Because the hard part is the change. The hard part is not doing it. The hard part is the change in mindset. But it has to take place. Just like what we heard today in this interview. The giving, the helping, that is counterintuitive. And it's not helping just for helping's sake. It's helping that builds that trust, that connection with that other person, that reciprocation that they feel unconsciously compelled to do. So make sure you're checking out the courses at b2brevenue.com. Everybody who shares my content on LinkedIn, likes it, comments on it, give it a little thumbs up. Oh, you're friends for life. Also, check out the other podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, The Sales Leadership Show, B2B, Revenue Leadership. This is nothing but pure gold out there. I'm here working for you 24/7. We'll see you next time.